Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode in my series on the Witcher lore. If this is my first video you're watching, then hello and welcome. My name is OkGov and I'm here to do the best job I can in explaining the lore of the Witcher world. Today's topic is one that I've wanted to cover for a very long time, but I've kept it off for various different reasons, but it's my favourite school and my favourite animal, so it makes sense that I should, cover it. Besides which, there are other videos on the topic and the wiki does go over the school briefly, but I think I can dig a little deeper and run over some speculations about the school. And even though most of this information is generally based off of an assumption, it does come from a place of truth in terms of the fact that we are just looking at what we know and putting it together as best we can. And just a quick little note before we start, the School of the Bear does in fact not originate from the books. It was injected by CG Projekt Red as one of their own ideas to expand on the universe a little, which is partly the reason as to why there is not a lot of information regarding the history to the various witches associated with it. I made a video on Witcher Gerd though, who came from this school, which I highly recommend you go and watch because it's a pretty interesting story overall, but this basically relates back to why we don't have a lot of information on the school as it is. Firstly, it is commonly believed that the School of the Bear was situated in the Skellige Isles, or at least its main headquarters were, and there may have been other outposts belonging to that school existing in different parts of the continents. The reason people assume it originates from Skellige is largely due to the ways and beliefs of the school itself, as the Witcher schools take after or at least borrow partly from the animal they are related to. In this case, bears are very heavy creatures with massive powerful claws and the ability to use their weight and their might against any they might fight. The Ursine armor, for example, which comes from this school, displays many attributes of a bear simply just in the design itself, being very robust, practical, and heavily armored compared to other Witcher gear. It makes many of us assume that the witches from the bear school adopted a much heavier and harder hitting fighter style as well. Generally speaking, witches fight very quickly, often being referred to as dancers with blades, but in this case it seems there is a possibility they fought with a much more brutish intent and were rougher in battle. Which also raises a very interesting theory that these witches may have used axes as well as swords, meaning they could very well have been dual-wielding a silver axe at the same time as a steel one for both monsters and men respectively. Which is honestly pretty badass, and in the game you can actually equip an axe if you want, which I don't think is related to this, but it really isn't as far-fetched as you might imagine. Imagining witches running around with axes as they are typically much heavier weapons would make a lot more sense if they were really trying to be as brutal and bear-like as possible. And that is not to say that an axe is better than a sword in any way, or that it would make more sense just technically speaking, but it does in terms of the combat style and the way these guys actually act and the way they fight. Now all of this actually helps to support the idea that these witches came from Skellige, as the land alone is much harsher and hence is in need of people who are much stronger. Combining that with the general way the warriors from Skellige are portrayed or inspired by Vikings and Gaelic clans, it seems to make a lot more sense to assume that the School of the Bear would come from a harsher land where it is necessary for them to act as they do. Which leads us to the question of where their school or their main base would have been located. Caer Gallen is a small castle or a fort which is situated in Skellige. It seems like the most probable for me simply because of where it is situated. It sits high up in the hills and looks down over the surrounding land, being relatively close to Caer Trold. This was admittedly one of the suggestions made by someone on the wiki along with many other possibilities, but after I took a look over them all, it seems like the best one. People did say that maybe the castle belonging to Clan Tuesek had once been where it was, but knowing the story of Witcher Gerd and the overall clan doesn't make it seem very probable due to how the castle was built and the founding of the clan itself. However, the reason people believe this is because the clan is heavily related to bears, but I don't think that's related to the witches in any way. It also occurred to me that maybe the bear witches, if they did indeed come from Skellige, may have played a much larger role in the community. Generally speaking, witches are looked down upon, but in a land so cold and harsh where warriors and honour resides above many other things, it seems only natural that witches would be more welcome and respected there for their skills. Monsters, just like humans, have adapted to the tougher land, meaning they are more dangerous than their brethren from Velen, for instance, making them much more dangerous enemies to everyone. Admittedly, that might just be wishful thinking, but it's a nice idea, and if I've learned anything from the stories I've read on the witches from the School of the Bear, it seems they were more welcome in Skellige and were highly appreciated for their skills and their combat experience and just what they knew about monsters in general. There are sadly only 2 known witches from the School of the Bear, that being Witcher Gerd and Junod of Belhaven. Like I said, I've made a video on Gerd which you should really watch, but other than that, there isn't a lot known about the other guy as he died in a vineyard while trying to complete a contract. Which isn't a very exciting death or a very exciting story for a Witcher, but still that seems to be how he met his end. And I know none of this is solid information, and obviously it's all just theories, which is kind of fun to some extent because it leaves us all wondering a little bit about what happened and talking about exactly why they exist and where they came from. And as to why there's no history behind them in general, I don't know why CG Projekt didn't put in more. It kind of baffles me to an extent, but I guess it was just them trying to prioritize what they really needed to put in and what they felt like could be avoided a little bit or just sort of skipped over and given a general idea. So this is one of those subjects that took more of a hit in terms of how in-depth it goes into the lore and how much it explains about the world and the situation and the characters and everything that happened alongside it. So that about wraps it up for all I know on this school, and I'm going to do some more videos like this which are related around theories as well as facts because they're honestly pretty interesting to think about and consider. And if you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like down below and stay subscribed for more content because it's coming soon. And please, if you want to support this channel to keep it going, consider either sharing this video around or supporting me on Patreon. And if anyone was wondering why I have teaser trailers, it's mainly because there are sometimes gaps between my videos and I want to assure you guys that something is actually on its way. And I'm curious to know how many of you actually are watching my channel, or have been watching my channel for a while, because it's really important to me, and it's so cool to see that someone who commented over a year ago is still commenting today. It's just truly wonderful in that way, because it feels like, oh, I know you, yeah, you've been here for a long time, and that's just awesome. So thank you so much for watching, and I still cannot do these outros seriously or professionally, so you just go and have a really great day, and I'll see you soon. Argle bargle.